Thanks, guys. It's Tony Freudman next. Maybe just ask you, if you want to record, fine, but please keep them to yourself. There are certain things that may be said that are only suitable for saying to us at this stage. I'm passing over to Tony.
I can't hear you. I'm not here.
No, it's on. You have to really talk right into it, sorry.
Put it right to
right left, like a DJ.
I'll do my best. Can you hear me? To begin, I bring you the best wishes and the grateful thanks of my colleagues Steve Donato, George Errol and Niall Lawler. You guys, all of you have impressed an American company who I think thought that Brits were rather laid back or stiff upper lip or diffident. Well, they know better now, you know, they really do. And, you know, things like Dunkirk Spirit and so on, they have truly seen how it works and what you can do with the kind of support that you've provided. So they've asked me to say how important that is, because in the, you know, in the cold light of business, having the support of the community you want to work in, and an airport is the kind of business that operates in full public view. You can't do things secretly on an airport. You can't break your word on an airport. Everyone knows what you're doing. If you say planes are arriving and they're not, people know. If you say you're not going to have night flights and you start bringing flights in at night, people know. You can't do anything on an airport without the support of the community. So, in terms of starting this project or restarting this project, and also encouraging, supporting investment, as Sir Roger was just saying, this is absolutely essential. So, repeating myself now, without you it would be much more difficult for us. Before I go into the detail of the DCO, there's just something I want to get across on airport ownership. Right, oh wow, okay. I'm going to get electrocuted in a minute. There's something I want to say about airport ownership, because it really is important. You've heard often enough that River Oak is a private equity group. And what does that mean? It basically means it's an organisation like other private equity groups which uses its own money and the money of external investors who regularly back it to enter into projects, and then as those projects get bigger, so other investors follow them into it. And it's not as if this hasn't been done before in the UK. I mean, just to remind ourselves, at Gatwick, now Gatwick belongs now 42% to a company called Global Infrastructure Partners, GIP, which is an American private equity group who just happened to have an office at Stamford, Connecticut, near River Oaks. I'm not suggesting it's just a coincidence. That's how these things work. But did you know that the other stakeholders in Gatwick, the other shareholders in Gatwick, are the future Fund Board of Guardians, which is an Australian sovereign wealth fund, 17%. That's actually Australians' pension funds. 16% is the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund. 13% is the California Public Employees Fund. And 12% is the National Retirement Pension System of Korea. That's how these things work. And we tried so hard when we were asked by TDC to produce consolidated accounts to say, this is the world of private equity. We're not patronising you, we're simply saying this is how it works with these large-scale investments. And I mean, just to test you, in relation to River Oak and the way that we've operated, it's all become terribly personal. Personal attacks on me, on George, on Niall, and so on. Well, I mean, I wonder if anyone knows who the chairman and MD of GIP is, who are the majority or the largest shareholders in Gatwick. I bet you don't. What you know about Gatwick is who runs it. And who runs it depends on the choice that the owners of Gatwick make to get the best people to run it, which is exactly what we will do. I'm not going to be in the control tower. Niall Law is not going to be in the tower. What do you think? Of course not, you know. That's not how it works. We will invest in a sound business plan, and that's the difference. Now, the next thing I want to do is to read to you, because it will be FOIable shortly, a letter that our solicitors wrote to the Chief Executive of Thanet District Council on the 20th of January. And it reads as follows. It's headed Manston Airport Site, Proposed Development Consent Order. Dear Madam. Very, very correct. We are instructed by River Oak Investment Corp and write in connection with our client's proposed reinstatement and development of the former Manston Airport site into a functioning airport. I should say this is written by Messrs. Bircham, Dyson, Bell of number 50 Broadway, who are our new solicitors and our specialists in DCO. They go on to say this. The development of the site proposed by our client will increase airport capacity by at least 10,000 additional annual cargo movements and, as a result, the scheme will constitute a nationally significant infrastructure project, NSIP, requiring authorisation by a development consent order under the Planning Act 2008. Together with the principal consent authorising development, a DCO can grant further consents under a number of regimes, for example highways, and grant compulsory acquisition powers over land. A DCO will also provide protection for parties who may be potentially impacted by the development. The Act prescribes a process by which a DCO can be obtained, and this process includes the requirement for examination of any application before the Major Infrastructure and Planning Directorate of the Planning Inspectorate. The process is intended to provide a streamlined and expedited process by which NSIP development can be permitted, while ensuring that proposals are given the requisite scrutiny. Our client is preparing to undertake the prescribed pre-application process for a DCO before submitting an application to the Planning Inspectorate by the end of this year. We understand that Thanet Council is still considering the use of its compulsory purchase powers over the site and continue to seek an indemnity partner to manage the financial risk of the development through a soft marketing exercise. After the unsuccessful conclusion of negotiations with our client, we expect that an agreement with an indemnity partner will be sought on terms no less onerous than those offered to and rejected by River Oak in 2015. However, once granted, the DCO will give River Oak the necessary compulsory purchase powers to acquire the airport site, and the financial risk of such a development would be borne solely by River Oak. Development pursuant to the DCO will help meet the Council's strategic priority stated in the emerging local plan and reiterated in the soft marketing material to support the sustainable development of Manston Airport to enable it to function as a local regional airport. Therefore, we consider that the soft marketing exercise is unnecessary and that potential applicants to the indemnity partner role should be made aware of the upcoming application by River Oak. Our client would be pleased to send its consultants to the Council's offices to explain the DCO application process Our client would be pleased to send its consultants to the Council's offices to explain the DCO application process and how that process can assist River Oak in delivering the development that the Council seeks at the Manston Airport site. That was sent on the 20th of January. We haven't received a reply. I'm going to do a smaller font now. just to remind ourselves, the powers that we are wanting to use here are set out in the 2008 Planning Act, which was actually first moved in the House of Commons in December 2007. And just quoting from the opening remarks of the then Secretary of State, Hazel Blears, she says, in the clauses we set out, the range of nationally significant projects include ports and harbours and projects connected with aviation, energy, water, wastewater and waste disposal. So the powers there were always intended to be used for major infrastructure projects, including airports. And that's the point at which we pick this up now. So we now face a clearly defined process which we will follow according to the law under the supervision of the Planning Inspectorate down in Bristol. You've probably read that we had our first meeting with them on the 5th of January. We have another meeting with them later in February to review progress. And essentially, what we now have to do is this. We have to produce a master plan. A master plan which demonstrates that this airport is capable of meeting the criteria for a project of national significance. I say now that the criteria are a little artificial.
Sorry.
Again. I say now the criteria are a little artificial because they're either 10,000 cargo movements or 10 million passengers. What we don't want you to think in all of this is that we've forgotten about passengers. It is simply that the focus, which we believe is attainable and is consistent with everything we've said over the last 2 years, of 10,000 cargo movements is easily attainable, and therefore, once we've done that, the issue will be relatively straightforward. I don't want to sound complacent, because we have to do the work, and we have to convince the Planning Inspectorate that we can indeed do that. But, as I said, it is consistent with the submission that we made to the Davis Commission 18 months ago now. It's also consistent with the evidence that we gave to the Transport Select Committee. So it's all there, and there is no departure from that.